Yes, good afternoon. My name is Molly, and I will try and just help us revise and go through. I know it's the last a day before the test. For the part one, I will focus purely just what you expect as shared by Dr. Mufunguro. So we'll go through the questions and we'll be providing just a brief explanations around each of the questions. And the first question that we are looking at is we're focusing on the role of IT in the modern enterprise. Modern organizations are increasingly dependent on powerful but complex IT systems. That's according to Kutusev, who identifies a core problem stemming from this reliance. Explain this problem and articulate its underlying root cause. And of course, the problem is a problem of business IT misalignment, that the IT systems and the business strategy don't support each other well and often move in different directions. The root cause, really the communication gap. Business people and IT people don't share a common language or viewpoint, and this leads to a breakdown in terms of in understanding the overall plan. Yes, so that's really the issue here, is that there's business IT misalignment. And the problem, what causes it, is actually the communication gap. So, enterprise architecture is formally defined as comprehensive description of an organization viewed from an integrated business and IT perspective. The core value delivered by EA is its ability to provide a holistic and comprehensive understanding of the entire organization. So that's the main goal of enterprise architecture. It will help us have a holistic and comprehensive understanding of the entire organization, whereby it will cover all aspects that are related to business processes, the technology landscape, and the overall strategic goals of the organization. So this kind of approach gives us visibility, which is very crucial and very important when it comes to decision making, and just enhancing the strategic planning process within the organization. So, historically, the concept of EA has been closely linked with systems thinking, often leading to conceptualization as formal, exhaustive blueprint. That's according to the Open Group Architecture Framework, also known as TOGAF, or the Zachman framework rather. So this traditional view makes EA look like it involves just the creation of detailed logical models describing the enterprise's current state, desired future state, and the necessary roadmap. So it's very important as we discuss enterprise architecture, we are really looking at where we are currently and where we want to be in future, and then also focusing on that roadmap that will get us into that direction. However, practical analysis reveals a significant deviation. Real-world EA practices, even those deemed successful, often do not adhere to strictly prescriptive details of the spirit of these complex frameworks. The modern understanding of EA recognizes the primary, utility lies not in achieving theoretical completeness or comprehensive documentation, but in establishing a pragmatic system governance. This system relies on creating actionable, brief, and relevant interfaces that enable effective communication and decision making between the different groups within the organization. Okay. So, basically, I'm just trying to explain what EA is before we go into details of looking at these questions. And I think one thing I need to quickly mention is that instead of building exhaustive blueprints, Successful EA practices prioritize a focused collection of 4 artifacts, okay? And these artifacts that they are focusing on are to do with principles, visions, standards, and models, okay? These they serve as an essential communication aid for senior business leaders and technical teams. This shift represents a foundational pragmatism where architects must prioritize current strategic relevance and effective communication over purely theoretical and conceptual completeness. So, that is basically the explanation around EA, what it is and the problem that is there. So we've identified that modern organizations are increasingly dependent on powerful but complex IT systems. CodeSave identifies the core problem stemming from this relevance. Explain the problem and articulate its underlying use. So the problem that is there is business alignment. The IT systems and the business strategy don't support each other well and often move in different directions. The root cause is a communication gap. Business and IT people don't share a common language or viewpoint, leading to a breakdown in understanding the overall plan. And that's the reason why we need an enterprise architecture approach. Okay, so question 2 says, according to chapter 1, what is the proposed solution to the problem of business IT alignment, and how does it specifically address the identified root cause? So if this question will come in the test, you should be able to know that the answer was already hinted to you here. When they say what is the proposed solution to the problem of business IT alignment, so this one that I've highlighted right here is the answer that was needed for the question on top, where we're saying that the problem is IT alignment, business IT alignment. So if you can't remember the answer to this when they're asking for the problem, we will still remember that the problem really is business IT alignment. It's already been given in the next question that follows. And what we need to focus on is the solution where there is business IT misalignment, and how does it specifically address the identified root cause. So the proposed solution we know is we need to go the enterprise approach way, to use it as a communication discipline, because we know the issue here was the communication gap where these business people and IT people are not understanding each other. EA provides a structured set of models, diagrams, and documents. These are the artifacts, okay? And these artifacts are what I had described earlier on when I was talking about some of the artifacts types that might be used. Could be, I think I mentioned to do with principles, okay? Principles, I mentioned visions, I mentioned standards, and models. So these are the common types that could be used today. So these, when you have the vision statements, when you have the standards and the models and the principles, these will act as a common language, shared context. Okay, so that's how EA will address. So EA, remember, it will bring about these artifacts to bridge in as communication. So that's how we're going to address the this question on top here. So I think, I don't know if there's any question right now, but really the primary goal for enterprise architecture is the achievement of IT business alignment. It's all about just aligning IT and business. This is defined as an active synchronization of the company's business strategy with its IT strategy, ensuring that all technology investments and projects are directly linked to and supportive of strategic business goals. Okay. Not sure if I'm recording. Okay. Yes, I am recording. So, we're saying that successful alignment ensures that technology is used effectively to deliver measurable value, enhance overall performance, and secure competitive advantage. Okay. This alignment is critical because it reduces wastage, resource wastage, and maximizes the return on technology investments. Alignment operates across two crucial dimensions. There's when you're aligning IT and business, there's a strategic alignment and operational alignment. So this dimension strategic alignment addresses the long-term perspective, ensuring consistency between the company's strategic business plans and its long-term IT strategies. So an example of strategic alignment is decision to invest in a globally standardized cloud platform to enable seamless long-term expansion into new international markets. So that's just an example of strategic alignment, where business would want to procure cloud services to expand to cover new markets. Operationally, what we are saying, operational alignment, this dimension addresses the short-term perspective, ensuring consistency between day-to-day business operations and underlying information systems. This means guaranteeing, for example, that an organization's order fulfillment system is always consistently supported by accurate real-time inventory systems. So the relationship between business and IT is inherently synergetic, or rather I can say maybe symbiotic in nature. Synergistic, or symbiotic. The business acts as the external front end, setting the overall strategic direction, while IT operates as an internal back end, responsible for implementing the desired strategy through digitized processes and infrastructure. This dependency necessitates effective coordination, mutual alignment. So while enterprise architecture is recognized as the key instrument for driving this alignment, the root cause of misalignment is frequently a communication failure rather than a lack of planning. The prevalent reliance on complex systems thinking often proves insufficient for practitioners because it fails to translate technical complexity into integrated views that are meaningful for business leaders. Therefore, the solution involves correcting this communication failure through the disciplined creation of targeted, integrated EA artifacts. So, just as an example, when we talk about alignment, we are saying strategic alignment, the objective is to ensure that IT investments support long-term goals. You don't want a situation where the business is planning 10 years and then the IT investments in a shorter term, maybe like 1 year or 6 months. There will be misalignment. So typical misalignment symptoms, the way you can tell is IT projects fail to deliver competitive advantage or measurable business value. You can't measure what the IT solution is bringing up. Like there's no measurable business value, and IT projects usually fail to bring about competitive advantage. Remember, the goal of IT investment is to bring competitive advantage to the organization. So some of the EA artifacts you can use at this level when you're looking at strategic alignment is tools used to correct like visions, roadmaps, and architecture and principles. Even considerations can be used. We'll talk about the CLSV load model a bit later on. Then for at operational level, the objective is ensure underlying systems support current business processes efficiently. So operationally, you just want systems to be able to support the current business processes. Some of the symptoms you see where there is misalignment is duplication of data, fragmented systems, siloed systems, high maintenance costs, etc. And the tools that you can use to correct this are, you can look at your landscapes, your process models, your technology standards, and then foundation alignment is another issue, where you are ensuring governance and organization structures facilitate coordination, and lack of communication and shared understanding between business and IT leaders. You can use organizational maps, EA governance structures to address this issue. So that's we still have got quite a number of things to cover. So for now, we've looked at the misalignment problem and how to address it. We even went further to discuss some of the tools that we need to use. So let's look at question 3. Briefly explain the ultimate benefit that an organization gains from successfully implementing enterprise architecture beyond just resolving communication issues. So the major benefit that EA brings in an organization is it helps the organization gain business agility, enterprise agility. So by aligning business goals with IT systems, enterprise architecture enables organizations to change and adapt quickly to new market demands, which makes the organization more competitive and resilient. Okay, so you need to remember that it's all about helping the organization get competitive advantage as well as tapping into the new markets, and also being able to make the organization become more agile. Okay, meaning it's resilient and it can easily change according to requirements, or whether it's like internal or external factors. Right, so the concept of EA, we need to define EA, define enterprise architecture, and describe the stacked layered domains typically encompasses. So this one is a very easy answer. So the first thing that they're asking you is to define enterprise architecture, and then we'll mention the layered domains. So there are two parts to this question. So what is EA? EA, we're saying, is a practice. It's the practice of describing the current structure of the organization's resources, processes, systems, and prescribing the future evolution of those structures to support the business strategy. Remember, there's also the roadmap. So you're looking at the current state of the organization and where it wants to go in the roadmap that it has to take. So some of the layered domains, there are 4. So the stack is also known as, you can also just remember it as a BDAT stack. That's what we usually call it. Yeah, so BDAT for B, it's business. For D, it's data. I think we will just focus on data for easier explanation. And then the A is the applications, and then the T is technology. So these layered domains, basically, the business, the organization's processes and capabilities, the data, the key data needed to run the business, the software and the systems that process the data, and the underlying infrastructure, the technology, whether it's the hardware, the networking, and others, that helps run the applications. So that's what that's the concept of EA. Basically, it's just where you are, where you want to go, and then the roadmap, and then you are looking at some of the domains that it will cover: the business aspect, the data aspect, the technology aspect, the application and technology aspect. That's how the start is. Question 2, we want to explain dual nature and dual life cycle of EA artifacts and discuss their significance. Okay, I will come back to some of these and just explain a little bit more in detail. Yeah, so really, a dual nature of EA artifacts. A critical property of effective EA artifacts is their inherent duality. They are both physical descriptive documents and embodiments of specific intentional functions. This allows the same artifacts to serve multiple purposes for different stakeholders. Okay? This duality can be implicit or explicit. High-level business-focused artifacts such as business capability maps often leverage implicit duality, meaning their abstract nature allows them to be interpreted differently based on the audience's background and interest. For example, C-level executives may interpret a capability map as a set of strategic assets for strategy execution, while managers use the same map as a guide for operational deployment. This capability is instrumental in the EA governance process, allowing architects to secure strategic buy-in and consensus from executives on a high-level strategic visions before introducing technical complexities that could lead to divergence or resistance. So by presenting concepts using technology-neutral business language, focusing on elements like customers and financial goals, consensus is fostered during the initial decision-making stage. So, when you are being asked to explain the dual nature and dual life cycle of EA artifacts, we are saying that dual nature EA artifacts are both descriptive, they show the current reality, and they are also prescriptive in nature, showing the future plan. For dual life cycle, there are two life cycles. Life of the artifact, how long the document is kept and maintained, the life of the content, the lifespan of the specific system or rule described in the artifact. The significance is that the EA practice must be disciplined in regularly updating its content to prevent artifacts from becoming outdated or useless, even if the documents themselves are kept for too long. So that's basically about why the dual nature of EA artifacts. And then question 2.3 is focusing on describing the role of EA practice as an organizational function and key responsibilities of architects. So they are saying, can you describe the role of EA practice? What is the role of EA practice as an organization function? And what are the responsibilities of architects within this practice? So the role of EA practice is purely governance and planning. Okay. So it acts as a central hub. So it ensures that all IT change is aligned with business strategy. IT architects, the responsibilities, the main ones are to create, maintain, and use EA artifacts. So you're talking about those EA artifacts we described earlier on, the visions, the six, like, okay, you can focus on the 6 artifacts, the considerations, the visions, the landscape, the designs, and all those. So really is to create and maintain those. And then they are responsible for, number one, facilitating communication between business and IT, to develop architectural rules, principles and standards, and then governing projects to ensure they follow the rules and the vision and the target vision. So that's the always, if you can just know that EA practice really is about governance and planning, but the responsibilities of the architects is to create and use these artifacts. I mentioned the considerations and standards and visions, landscapes and outlines and designs. Yeah, okay, so we can move to 2.3. No, I mean chapter 3. We'll look at the purpose and value of EA, why we need EA and what value it brings about, and then we'll try and look at what EA is and what EA is not. And then the other part will focus on the enterprise architecture, city planning, just to explain what this is all about. And then finally, we'll introduce the serious V-load model that we've described earlier on. The last one will just be the dialogue between business and IT leaders. So what should they be discussing? What are the challenges? What are the key discussion points? And what is EA uncertainty principle? What does it entail? So that will be the last one for this part. So quickly, I think we can look at the chapter 3. Explain the fundamental need for enterprise architecture in complex organizations and provide 2 examples. So why do we need it? EA is needed because organizations are too complex and change too quickly to manage informally. So enterprise architecture provides the necessary structure, planning, and control to keep the vast interconnected IT business systems coherent and efficient. Some of the examples could be, global companies that need to manage diverse legal process, systems, landscape across many regions. You could have global shipping companies also. Let me just add another one. Global shipping companies. Okay. E.g. Maersk. You can check this out, what this company does. They obviously need this because they have to ship from different parts of the world, and tracking these containers and the goods, and so you need a system that can help, and that's one of these organizations that can be used. And also government agencies, they need to manage large, critical, and often outdated infrastructure. So where you are managing outdated infrastructure, like in a government setup, and look under strict budget and compliance rules, you may need to, these organizations might need to implement EAs or adopt EA solutions. Code2Save highlights common misconceptions about what an EA practice is and and describe. So we're just going to describe 2 misconceptions and contrast between them. Okay. But before we do that, I wanted to just run through quickly. So as you are aware, first of all, this EA, the other thing I wanted to mention is that these NGOs might also need to implement EA. EA can be used in banking, agriculture, agriculture sector, education. You might have like the Commonwealth University opening up in many other regions. As you know, it's growing. So they might decide to implement an EA solution just to be able to make sure that they manage their business processes. Apart from education, also in retail, might need this, including healthcare. Okay, including healthcare. So basically, these are examples of organizations where EA can be applied. Application of EA. Okay, these are just examples for us to digest. So I think this part we've really dealt with it in detail. The other thing that we wanted to explain here is that the EA enterprise, I think this since 1950 and 1960, we've had numerous proposed step-by-step architecture based planning. I think we've had BSB, we have TOGAF, EAP, and so on. So it was an IT focused discipline. So EA is IT focused. However, this did not work. Like these others did not work because they are purely focused on IT. Thus, the evolution of business strategy and information technology. So, when we were describing what EA is, I think there's a part here where we're saying what EA is. So basically here, let's just remember that there's business strategy, versus IT. So this is what is EA. Very simple. We can't forget that one. So we can go back to the question that deals with what EA is and what EA is not. Okay, so before I go to the answer, I think there are just two answers here, but I want to expand on this. So we're saying that EA is not an IT project. EA creates a single blueprint. So before we look at these, I think maybe in order to answer this, we're going to say, first of all, you need to know that EA is, I'm going to say what EA is not, okay? EA is not actually technical planning. So we should always know that EA is not technical planning within an IT department. So it should not be considered. It should not be considered like that. And then EA, we're saying EA is so basically we're saying EA is not a technical plan. It's not technical planning in the department. It's there to bridge. It's there to bridge business planning and IT alignment. Okay, that's the thing here. And then the other point that we need to consider is that EA practices cannot be copied from other organizations, okay? Each organization must have its own EA practice. It has to be established in-house and continuously adapt. So must be established in-house and adapt to specific organization. Okay, I hope that's clear. And then the other point is that EA cannot happen automatically. Okay. What do we mean when we say EA cannot happen automatically? So EA are merely tools that help different actors make better decisions. Planning work is carried out by human actors and not EA artifacts. So planning, we're saying that planning must be done by human actors and not artifacts. Okay. And then we're saying EA is not a substitute for competence. So you cannot use EA as a substitute for competence, meaning you need to have competent individuals within the organization. Just having EA artifacts alone and implementing EA architecture does not mean that the organization will survive without competence. And then the other thing is that EA is not work only dedicated to experts. So this practice requires everyone. It requires involvement and participation of multiple stakeholders. So we're saying all stakeholders must be involved. Okay, so that's really what. And then maybe the other thing we can say is that EA is not a one-time project. EA is not a one-time project. We're saying it's continuous activity. Okay. Pardon my typo. So EA is not a one-time project and it's continuous activity. Okay. So the other issues that we can say what EA is not, maybe is not, EA is not about, so we say EA is not technology specific. Okay. Hope that's okay. EA is not technology specific practice. There are a lot of them. EA is not enterprise modeling. EA is not enterprise engineering. EA is not an implementation of EA frameworks. So I think we'll just leave it at this, describing what EA is not. So to answer the question, common misconception, these are some of the misconceptions where people think that EA is only for technical planning. Other people think that EA can be copied and pasted from a different organization and implemented in another organization. Other people think EA is an automatic process. Other people think that EA can be substituted for competence, can substitute competence rather. EA is work for experts. Other people think that EA is a one-time project. Other people think EA is a technology specific practice. So this one where we're saying the misconception is that EA is just an IT project or a technical role. yeah, this is where we're saying that it's not part of just the technology. So what we're saying is that EA is fundamentally a business discipline. It focuses on aligning the entire enterprise, people, process, and technology, not just creating technical IT designs. EA creates a single perfect blueprint. Okay. Reality is that EA is continuous, pragmatic process. It focuses on guiding evolution and making sensible trade-offs over time, accepting that a perfect static plan is impossible. So that's why we're saying that EA is not a one-time project. Okay, so that's what we're saying here. So this is how we can go about constructing these. Okay, we can move to question 3. The value of EA is realized through a chain of benefits. However, describe how indirect process improvements ultimately lead to direct tangible outcomes in a successful EA practice. So, what they're saying is that the value of EA is realized through a chain of benefits. Describe how indirect process improvements ultimately lead to direct tangible outcomes in a successful EA practice. So the indirect process improvements, improves internal processes like decision making, quality, and project governance. Okay, so these are the indirect process, and then the direct ones, the tangible outcomes. These improved process result in measurable benefits, something that you can measure. So that's why we're saying that the value of E is realized through a chain of benefits. So the indirect ones through process improvements. We're saying that like decision making, something that is intangible, or project governance, and then the direct and tangible outcomes. These things to do with reduced operating costs, where you retire redundant systems, faster time to market due to quicker and governed project delivery, and lower risk by eliminating old and unsupported technology. Okay, so that is how we can describe these indirect and tangible outcomes as a result of implementing here. Okay. All right. So we can move to another part, which is part 4. No, rather chapter 4. And then we look at the last chapter for this section. So let's look at enterprise city planning. Enterprise city planning. So in order to fully encapsulate the enterprise architect's role in managing a vast, evolving and interconnected systems, the metaphor of the urban planner is deemed superior to a traditional building architect. A building architect designs a single structure with centralized control, whereas an urban planner manages the overall structure of the entire city. Considering how individual components, buildings, utilities, roads fit together and affect the city's inhabitants and long-term viability. The enterprise architect operates as a metropolitan planner, defining the policies, governance frameworks, and long-term architectural visions for multiple interconnected systems and organizational divisions. The key parallels in this analog highlights the challenges faced by enterprise architecture. So we'll go and look at the question, but some of the challenges that you need to understand is the core infrastructure rigidity. A city's core infrastructure, such as electrical grids, underground utilities, is rigid and highly complex to expand or modify. Similarly, software systems possess core components like database architecture and foundational system APIs that become rigid and costly to change once established. EAs are primarily responsible for governing this inherent rigidity. Unlike physical construction, which demands a rigid sequential approach, e.g. foundation before roof, modern software development permits modularity and incremental construction. The EA must establish architectural guideline standards that enable this decentralized flexibility without compromising the stability and integration of the core system. And then the last aspect is that the planner focuses on high-level designs like zoning, transport systems, and utilities. The EA mirrors this by concentrating on integration plans, IT infrastructure maps, and the design of APIs and middleware frameworks to ensure seamless connectivity across the enterprise ecosystem. This metaphor or this analog emphasizes that EA is primarily about managing the evolution of complex systems, requiring continuous governance over the rigid foundational elements. The rigidity of the core infrastructure dictates that EAs must meticulously establish and enforce clear standard rules to guide decentralized modular development. This mechanism ensures that individual project flexibility producing designs does not inadvertently undermine the long-term sustainability and interconnectivity of core technical landscapes. To communicate this complex interrelation, city planning diagrams are utilized, providing a large-scale graphical view that organizes systems and applications into high-level architectural areas. So the question will be, can you explain the powerful analog between EA and city planning and highlight how it provides a robust mental model for understanding EA purpose and the actors involved? So the analog is that enterprise is city and EA practice is the planning office. The purpose, the city planner doesn't build buildings, they ensure the city grows in a coherent, functional, efficient way. This is EA's purpose, and ensuring all IT projects building contributes positively to the overall enterprise architecture. The actors, this clearly defines the role of architects, planners, settings and city roles, and project teams, builders executing within these roles. Okay, I think we'll take a break for now, and then when we come back, we'll look at we'll list the 6 CSV load model that Kotosev introduced, and for any 2 of them, we'll describe their specific contents. So we can actually look at each of these and what is involved in them. There are just 6 fundamental artifact types, which are CSV load: considerations, standards, visions, landscapes, outlines, and designs. So the visions, they contain high-level blueprints for the future state, such as target operating model or future state of the application. This is where the organization wants to build the blueprint for a future state of the organization and how it's going to operate. And then the landscape, they contain facts about the current state, such as lists of all existing applications, their costs and their owners. Yeah. So visions and landscape we've briefly described. Then we can talk about maybe there's also a question that comes. I think here the idea is that once you explain these, there's also a follow-up question that explains how the landscape artifacts form the critical foundation for creating selective vision and how visions subsequently influence outlines. Okay. So the landscape to vision provides a factual starting point. Usually the system is odd and costly. That's the landscape, An effective vision must be based on reality captured in the landscape. You can't plan a bridge without knowing where the river currently is. So visions to outlines. So from landscape, you go to visions, then to outlines. So define the target destination, the what. Outlines are the project proposals, the how. Outlines take a piece of strategic vision and translate it into a specific governed change initiative and ensuring a project aligns with the overall future goal. The last part is where we want to discuss the dialogue between business and IT. It's very important. So just a recap before we go into this, we earlier on discussed that EA is here to stay. IT systems are getting more sophisticated. The benefits of EA is that it gives us measurable outcomes, the what. Some of the benefits are improved effectiveness of IT investments, improved efficiency of IT investments. You have reduced costs. I think I need to write these somewhere where we're discussing the benefits. There was a question that reduced. I think there was where we're talking about reduced costs. We'll find it. It's not this one. What the misconceptions? Yep, here. So some of the tangible benefits. We talked about reduced costs, and then the other one is we're talking about reduced technical and compliance risks. These are the direct benefits. Okay. So I think maybe we just need to list all of them, and then we can move to the other part. So, in short, what are the direct benefits? We are saying improved effectiveness. Okay, there is improved efficiency of IT investments. Okay. Okay. And then the other issue, the other benefit, the other direct benefit reduced technical and compliance risk. So we're saying reduce technical and compliance risks. Increased reuse of available IT resources. Increased reuse of IT resources. So there's no wastage of resources. So when you implement enterprise architecture, IT resources will be fully utilized. And the other one is reduced duplicated or legacy systems. Then improved speed and quality of project delivery. Improved overall conceptual consistency. So it helps the organization achieve overall business and IT alignment. And then also increased speeds to enter new markets. Okay. Finally, there's also improved management satisfaction. These are some of the direct benefits that I wanted us to talk about. Very important. I think we've looked at the benefits of EA in modern organizations. We've discussed how they can be applied in different industries, different organizations, NGOs, banking, retail, agriculture, government, so forth. And then also we did discuss briefly the history of EA, and also some of the misconceptions related to EA, what it is, what it's not, basically. So what is the link between the direct benefits and indirect benefits? The use of EA, which could result in improved decision making or IT planning. Some of the direct benefits: efficiency, effectiveness, reduced costs, risks, complexity, duplication, legacy systems. And then some of the indirect benefits are operational excellency, customer manage intimacy, product leadership, new markets, and management satisfaction. Improved management, new markets. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at the last part, which is the dialogue between this is unit 5, the dialogue between IT and business. So some of the 5 common discussion points between business and IT, hierarchy and the relationship between these discussion points. What is EA uncertainty? That one we already discussed it. Yes, so really, Kutsev argues that relying on business strategy as direct blueprint for IT is flawed. Identify 3 typical problems that make business strategy an insufficient guide for IT planning. Okay, this is a very good one. So what they're saying is that over relying on business strategy as direct blueprint for IT is not a good thing. So what are some of the problems that make business strategy an insufficient guide for a detailed IT planning. Why do you think that business strategy is enough to provide planning for IT? And that's what really the question is all about. So I'm going to try and find so some of the issues that we encounter is that it's too abstract. So business strategy is often too high level, and then business strategies tend to change over time due to market changes and other factors, making them unstable foundations for long-term IT infrastructure investment. And then it also ignores the IT reality. The strategy often doesn't consider the current state of the IT or technical debt or capability limitations, leading to unrealistic demands. So these are just some of the three. Okay, so I don't know if there's a question at this point. Let me pause just to get a question. Alright, since there's no question, we were just saying that business strategies are high level, they tend to change, and sometimes they do not consider the current state of the IT and what underlying technical debt the organization may be facing. This might lead to unrealistic IT demands. And then the last part is, can you articulate the 5 key discussion points that form the basis of a productive dialogue between business and IT, and explain which one is considered the most critical one of all. So the discussion points, one, the operating model, and then we also have business capability, and then we have the business needs, we have the business requirements, business processes, and then finally we have the business requirements. Okay, so these are some of the 5 discussion points. So just to explain these points, we've already said that the most critical is the operating model, which defines how the organization, the company runs, e.g. whether it's going to be centralized or decentralized. It profoundly affects the required IT structure, which is the most expensive and time-consuming. So the operating model, will the business model be centralized, decentralized, replicated? And then the business capabilities, what specific capabilities of an organization that require improvements? And the needs of the business, the processes, we're talking about process standardization, the requirements, business requirements, what IT system need to do in a business sense. So these discussion points are the result of some of the common business problems that we see. And these business problems is that sometimes as a result of business strategy, Strategy is often vague or absent. Strategy is unstable and often changes. Strategy requires non-reusable systems. So business strategy rarely provides a useful input for EA practice. Strategy neither specifies what IT should do right now, nor what IT should provide in the next 3 to 5 years. So IT systems should not be built on strategy entirely, because these strategies are often changing. Technical debt, these brutal siloed systems leading to system unhygienity or sanity. So between the business and the middle ground and IT, from the business side, we're saying competitive advantage. The business, we're looking at the sorts, the market segmentations, customer experience, and then the middle ground, which is to focus on these common grounds for discussing. We're discussing operating model, business capability, IT needs, and requirements. So what we're saying is that the business is focusing on competitive advantage, the sort, market segmentation, customer experience, while IT is focusing on software application, IT systems, databases, networking, infrastructures, security. So these are what IT focuses on does not make sense to the business, and what the business focuses on does not make sense to the IT. And that's why we need a common ground, a middle ground, where both IT and business are discussing the operating model, their capabilities, their business needs, their business requirements, and their business processes. That's why we need okay, so I think the last part is just to define the EA uncertainty principle and discuss its practical implications for enterprise architect when making long-range architectural plans. So the definition, the EA uncertainty principle states that you cannot achieve both detail and longevity in an architectural plan. Okay, so there has to be a compromise of the other. The more detailed the plan is, the faster it will become obsolete. So practical implementation is that architects must use multi-level approach. They must create abstract, long-lived plans like principles and high-level visions for long-term. Detailed, short-lived plans like designs for immediate project, accepting that these will expire quickly. Yeah. So that is the principle of enterprise architecture. And remember, when we were discussing city planning, we've mentioned about strategic planning. That city planning involves strategic planning, initiative delivery, and technology optimization. So basically, I think for this part, so far we've managed to do an introduction of the concept of EA, the role of EA, its benefits, the concept of city planning, business versus IT. Yeah, and then maybe in the next chapters we'll look at the process of EA practice, IT initiatives, CSV loads. Yeah, so okay, so I think in wrapping up the session, we've defined the what EA is and systems infrastructure, and the mandate for EA in achieving business and IT alignment. We did discuss strategic alignment and operational alignment, and yeah, and then the urban planner metaphor. Yeah, looked at that one. The structural domains of enterprise architecture. Other people will call it the Bates model. I think there's a question that we looked at where I was saying BDAT. Others call it BDAT. This one, the BDAT stack. or they call it the debate model, where this is business, application, information and technology, or business, data, application and technology, one and the same thing. So the EA structures the complexity of enterprise using a layered approach. Yeah, so the model adheres to the principles, which is like layered and organizing components into horizontal layers. Defining the structural rule is that the higher the layers rely upon and communicate with the adjacent lower levels. Dependency does not generally flow in reverse direction. This hierarchy is crucial for managing complexity and understanding the impact of changes. Visualization tools are employed to model these layers using swim lanes and color differentiation, which helps in distinguishing the domains and understanding their dependencies and actively communicating structural insights. Yeah, so those are the four domains that we've looked at. The business architecture. This domain sits at the top, focusing on the external services, products offered to customers. It defines a business strategy, organizational structure and governance mechanisms, and key business processes performed by various actors and roles. And then data or information. This domain deals with organization and the structure of the enterprise data sets. It covers both logical, physical data structures, data governance frameworks, and resources dedicated to data management. Application. This layer supports the business layer by defining the specific application systems used within the enterprise. It focuses on how these applications are designed, the services they provide, and how they interact with each other and the users. Finally, the technology. This is the base layer, providing the foundational infrastructure services necessary to run all applications. This includes hardware, communication networks, platforms, operating systems. Yeah, the interdependence traceability risk. The interdependence among bit forms the basis of traceability in EA. Yeah. All right. So for now, I think we'll end here. The next part we'll look at the units from Unit 6 to Unit 10. And then we'll wrap it up from Unit 10 to Unit 15, and then we should be ready to go ahead and write the exam. So thank you so much. I hope that this part 1 or test 1 revision was helpful.